Hello, everyone. Annie Dickerson here, and today I am thrilled to talk with you about one of my all-time favorite topics. I know it's not many of your favorite topics, but it's newsletters, creating and sending out regular newsletters. I know you're hemming and hawing over there. I get it. It's a chore. Creating a newsletter, it can be a chore. It's one more thing on your to-do list, and you're like, oh my gosh, all this other stuff to do. The last thing I want to do is have to sit down and create a newsletter. What do I write? When do I send it? Where do I get all this stuff, the content to put in it, right? I mean, we've been there too. Trust me, trust me. Creating a newsletter is not always easy, but I want to talk first about why a newsletter is so important for your business. And then we'll look at what our newsletters look like, how they've evolved over time. And then we'll talk a little bit about how you can start to create regular newsletters for your business. So first thing, let's talk about why it's so important. You know how at tech companies, they have these all hands meetings? When I used to work at LinkedIn, we had these, I think it was bi-weekly all hands meetings where everybody in the entire company, thousands of people, would stop what they're doing and they would tune in on the live stream, or they would attend live these meetings, which were, as the name would imply, all hands on deck. Everybody is focusing on that at that time. Now, this costs the company thousands and thousands of dollars to have thousands of employees stop what they're doing and to come to a meeting. But why? Why is it so important? Because it instills company culture. That is the CEO and the leadership's one opportunity on an ongoing basis to instill company culture. And you know that that company culture is so important for retaining employees, which is the biggest cost for companies, and for bringing on new employees. And so, if companies do it, now let's look at the newsletter. So, where the all hands or the team meetings are to instill company culture, well, your newsletter is really your opportunity to instill culture of your company with your customers, or in real estate syndications with your investors, right? So that newsletter that you send out, that is your opportunity to communicate with your audience about who you are as a brand and what you're all about, so that your brand can become part of their identity. That is the goal. That is how you create a movement. Think about great companies like Apple and Tesla, Facebook, Instagram. The reason that they're so prevalent in our lives is because they've become part of our identities. We know what they're all about. We see them all the time. We know their messaging. And one of the best ways to do that is through an ongoing newsletter. So I hope that some of the hemming and hawing has subsided now that you know how important this is. So I want you all to take your mental to-do list and take that newsletter that's all the way at the bottom of your to-do list. I want you to move it right to the top, because I promise if you start sending out regular newsletters with valuable content and solid messaging that really connects with your target audience, you are going to start seeing growth like you've never seen before. And I'm telling you this because this is what we did. We actually saw this happen in our business. When we first launched Goodegg Investments back in 2018, we committed to a weekly newsletter. Weekly. And people said, "You're crazy. What are you going to put in a weekly newsletter?" That means every week you got to sit down, figure out what content is going to go out in there. You got to create new content. How are you going to have time for that? And we were like, "No, no, we're going to commit to it. We're going to figure out how to make it happen," because we knew how important it was. And so we started, I think this was April or May of 2018, and we started every week. And I was leading the charge with the newsletters, putting all the content together. And I got to tell you, in those early days, it was hard. It was hard. I would sit down every week and I would say, shoot, the newsletter's got to go out tomorrow. What do I put in it? What do I write about? I just wrote one last week. Oh my goodness. What else can I tell people? Or what new content can I share? And so for us, I mean, at the beginning, it's a grind. It's a grind. It took me hours every week to put together that newsletter. But it was so important because people were seeing us in their inboxes week after week. So that built that trust that's so critical with your investors. We were able to build that trust because we showed people, hey, we're showing up every week. Rain or shine, we're going to be in your inbox on an ongoing basis. And we were sourcing our own content, we were sourcing other people's content, and we were really keeping our investors top of mind, and we were helping them to keep us top of mind so we could build that relationship. That's what it's all about. And so I'm going to take a moment to share with you the evolution of our newsletters over time so you can see where we started and where we currently are with the format and the content of our newsletters, and sort of behind the scenes of how we put together our newsletters, which is really quite bare bones, but hey, it works. And then I also want to talk about how you can start to put together your own newsletters. Okay, so let me start by sharing my screen. Give me just a second here. It's always like tricky green, big green share button. Like, where is that button? Okay, here we go. All right, so you should see my screen now. And this right here that you're seeing, look at that, May 11th, 2018. This is one of our very first newsletters, number 3. And this is back when we were just titling it Goodegg Investments Weekly Scramble number 3. That was our subject line. And over time, we iterated on that. And I'll show you what our latest newsletter looks like. But we've tested lots of different ideas for the not only for the subject line, but for the content, for the design, for the formatting. And every time we sent a new newsletter, we'd test out something else. We'd try out something else. We'd look at the data. Are people opening it? Are people clicking through? And how can we continue to optimize this experience for people? And so here's our first, or one of our first newsletters. As you can see, it starts out right off the bat with a video. And this is what we had started out at the beginning doing, was creating this video message at the top of every newsletter, because that's what we wanted to use to instill that brand culture, that brand messaging. And then what we found was, over time, as we looked at the data, a lot of people don't actually click through. They love to skim through the newsletter, but very few people actually click through. So then we started taking the messages from that we wanted to communicate in these intro videos, and we started putting them into sort of a letter form, which I'll show you in just a second. But you can see also early on, we had these really fun names for all the buttons. So we had these really short sections of text for each block. And then we'd have a fun button, crack the good egg shell. This one, we were talking about a deal that we were doing. This one's fully subscribed. Backup list, here I come. So again, short description with a fun button name. Here's a blog post that we wrote. And that's the other thing, is when you commit to a regular cadence of newsletters, it really kicks your butt into gear. I'm going to tell you, if you know, hey, today's Monday and tomorrow a newsletter needs to go out, then you start to get into this habit of seeking out the content that you can put into your newsletter, and you start to create a schedule for creating content because you know that that newsletter needs to go out. Here's another blog post. So you can see the format is very clean. It's very easy to scan. A lot of negative space. This is very important for creating very readable newsletters. Another one. So early on, we were putting a lot of our own content, and some of this was recycled week after week. We'd put in some of the same ones, and that's okay because not everybody will open every single newsletter. So don't worry about repeating content. Here's an external one. Demand for apartments is on the rise. Renting is no longer just a stepping stone. So early on, you can see we had a lot of these content blocks. Here's a podcast that I was on. And then we have the end of the newsletter, the call to action to join our investor club. And that is the end. Look, there's not even a footer down here with links to our social media or any other way to follow up with us. There's just this one call to action here. So you can see it's a lot of blocks, a lot of different content, but people can easily scan through and find anything that's relevant to them. So this is where our newsletter started. Now I want to take you to our latest newsletter. You can see the header has changed. We still have that date there, but right off the bat, we have a photo of me and Julie to really remind people and instill that culture of what we're all about, and we're here for you. And oh, hello, it's casual. All these little things, these subliminal messages communicate the culture of our brand. And so this one you see right off the bat here, the format is very different. Now we've included a lot more text, as you'll see as I'll scroll through. We have a lot more text in the newsletter, and opening it up, we have this letter. And this letter goes directly to all of our newsletter subscribers. And in this one, we're talking about the Danish concept of hygge. Now, hygge has nothing to do with real estate, at least not directly, but look, as we're talking about it, we're talking about enjoying the simple things in life. And we're talking about the travels that we're doing and the life by design that we're living. We're talking about Whitney on our team and showing off her family and her travels. And then we tie it back into real estate investing. One of the ways to bring hygge back into more hygge into your life is through the power of passive real estate investing. So look at this, we're tying this concept back in. And this, we've found people love this because as much as you and I love talking about real estate, and we could do it all day long, our audience likes real estate, but they're not real estate nerds like we are. So they don't want to open every single email and be like, okay, here's more real estate investing, more data. You're hitting me over the head with it, right? Your audience might be the kind that wants that, but you've got to figure that out. For our audience, they wanted some more lifestyle stuff. So we started giving them that, and we're seeing a tremendous response to that. People love seeing this. And so then we've got information about our latest 506c deal here. So people uh, can put in their soft reserve for that. We've got information about a couple of Facebook groups that we just started. But look at, like, even this, we took the time to create a custom image here with an arrow here pointing to join the group and some of the latest posts in here. So people at a glance, because as they're scrolling, they're looking at the images more than they're looking at the text. And so they can see at a glance, wow, this is what it's all about. Look at these family images, these travel images. And so they get a sense through that imagery what your brand is all about. And we've got a podcast here, and then we've got a few calls to action at the bottom. So we've got this Goodegg Investor Club call to action. We've got our Real Estate Accelerator course here, and then we've got our free book. And then at the bottom, we've got all these different links so people can follow us, can engage with us, even outside this newsletter. So as you can see, we've trimmed it up so there's fewer blocks, but more text in each block so people can skim at a glance and get the bulk of the content in this newsletter itself so that they don't have to click away if they don't want to, because as we've seen, very few people actually click on the buttons. So there you have it. That is how our newsletter has evolved over time. And as for how we actually put this together, as I said, it's very bare bones. So I'll just show you behind the scenes. This is literally what it looks like. So this is just an Evernote. You can do this in a notebook. You can do this in a note. You can do this in Google Docs. And if we scroll down, you'll see that basically for every week that we sent out a newsletter, I would just come in here and throughout the week, I would look for different pieces of content that I could share. And once I found something, I would add it to this list. And then when I started putting the newsletter together, I would just look at this list and say, oh, yeah, we need to put that podcast in there, or we need to put that event reminder in here, or we need to talk about a deal, or we need to put that latest blog post in here. And so as you get comfortable creating newsletters, you'll start to see all sorts of different content out there that you can start to share in your newsletters. But I wanted to give you a peek at this because it doesn't have to be complicated. This is literally just a note, and it's just text and bullet points. And every week I'm always thinking about what can I put in here. So here's that one that we were just looking at. See, I had these bullet points in here to remind me this is what I need to put in the next newsletter. And really, it doesn't need to be more complicated than that. That's really all you need is just a bullet pointed list, all the things that you're going to put in that next newsletter. And then when you sit down to write that newsletter, think about what you can share from your personal life, from your journey, from what you're learning that you can share with your audience, because that's what they want. They want to be along for the journey. They don't just want that finished product. They want to be part of this movement that you are creating. So I hope that this has inspired you and motivated you to take some action on your newsletter. And remember, it shouldn't be at the bottom of your list. It's not just to throw away. This newsletter is your opportunity to communicate directly with your audience on an ongoing basis and to instill brand culture. So take it as an opportunity, because once you do, you focus on that newsletter, you are going to see your list grow by leaps and bounds. All right. So for all of you who are watching, have you created a newsletter? And have you sent out your newsletter? If so, comment below and share a recent newsletter that you've sent out, or tell us where we can go to subscribe to your newsletter so we can see what you are putting out. All right. Well, with that, I hope that this video has given you some insight into the value of newsletters. And I hope that you share this with a friend or fellow entrepreneur, whether they're in real estate or not, so that we can all start leveraging the power of newsletters to grow our business. I'm Annie Dickerson. Thank you so much for watching. And I hope that this has helped you move the needle just a little bit on your business.